This is Jaden Kaler,
This is Shane Lemmel.
and we are the Upton Sports Talk podcast. This is our very first podcast, so hang in with us. It might be a little rusty. But today we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs and our predictions of NBA awards and the reasons why we chose them.
And then we'll also be taking a look into our reasons why we think Magic Johnson stepped down from his position as the Lakers president. And we'll also be taking a look back at Dirk Nowitzki's and Dwayne Wade's careers.
All right. And also today we have a special guest, Dawson Smith, who's going to be helping us out and just kind of arguing with us or agreeing with us on certain things. So let's start it off with the NBA playoffs and predictions. So as you can see, we have the number one seed, the Warriors and the Bucks, and do you see either of them going down anytime soon?
No, I believe the Bucks and the Warriors are the two teams that'll match up in the finals.
So because you don't see either of the one seeds going down anytime soon, who do you have in the first? Who's getting out of the first round?
Well, I believe, of course, the Warriors, they'll get out of the first round. Of course, the Bucks, like I said.
You know, I actually think the Bucks are going to go to a 7-game series with the Pistons. I feel like they have Giannis, obviously, and Chris Middleton, but outside of that, I don't see anybody else. Unlike the Pistons, they have two big men. Who's going to guard Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin? I think it's going to be a close series, but I do think the Bucks will win.
And see, I kind of agree with you there. In my prediction, I have them going 6 games. But I just don't see the Pistons. They haven't shown me enough for me to believe in them that they're going to make it any further. And, the one upset I believe that could possibly happen throughout the whole playoffs, well, no, there's 2, actually. I believe the Spurs will beat the Nuggets in 6 games. The reason I believe this, the Nuggets, they're a great team. There's no doubting that. But their 3 best players have never seen playoff basketball. And me, from a fan perspective, I just believe that could hurt them in the long run.
And with Greg Popovich being there all the time, he's great. He's probably the best coach of all time, so it's going to be tough for them to get out of there. But if this game goes 7 series, that final game in Denver, I got to give it to Denver because it's hard to play at Mile High.
Oh, there's no question about that. If the Spurs do not close it out in 6 games, it could be very difficult going into Denver. That's probably the best home court in the league at this point.
Yeah, I can agree. So what's the closest series you have in the first round?
In the first round, I believe it could be close either between the Thunder and Trailblazers or the Celtics and Indiana.
And I think the Celtics are actually going to go quite a ways. I know they haven't been playing great, like a great basketball team here lately, like they should be, because you look at their roster and they just have so much potential, I think. I think they could be one of the best teams, if not the best team, if they use it. And they have one of the best coaches as well.
Well, there's no question about that. The Celtics, great coach. And then, as far as depth, I think they're the deepest team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And the Pacers, with losing Victor Oladipo, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, because, he's their best player, right? And they've made it this far on just playing their guts out and having a great coach.
Yeah, I do got to commend their coach. He's done a lot with the team that he has this year. Dawson, what about you? Who do you think is going to be a close matchup, or who do you think?
Well, I think actually that the 76ers are going to do really well. I don't know that the Celtics are going to go very far just because of Kyrie Irving. He is a great player, but in some ways he's a ball hog and doesn't support his team very well. Gordon Hayward hasn't come on super well, and I think they need another year to really become a good team again.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Rockets and my Jazz. So, the Rockets have James Harden, Chris Paul, Clint Capella. The Jazz everyone only knows Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert, but they have a good supporting cast around those two. I think Ricky Rubio's good. He's a good facilitator for that team. I think just their defensively, they're a great team and they have a great coach, and they just gel together really well. They have great team chemistry, I think. I think the Rockets will prevail, but I think it's going to be closer than what a lot of people think.
See, I agree with you in that perspective. Like, the Jazz's defense, it's pretty good. Like, I think it could stumble the Rockets in, say, game 1 or 2. And then Utah, it is a tough place to play. It's underrated how tough Utah, like, their home field advantage is. The stats may not show that, but it's a tough place to play in Utah.
Especially being the only pro team in the whole state. They've got diehard fans.
Oh, yeah, definitely, no question.
But I think the key for the Jazz to win that one is going to be Donovan versus James Harden. I think if James Harden scores 28 a game, the Jazz will be fine. But if he goes off for 30s and 9s, then the Jazz won't beat him. But I think that's going to be the key matchup there.
And see, I agree with you there. But if it comes down to star power, the Jazz are a little bit lacking in that area, but they make up for it in defense. So like I say, if they don't, they got to come out and set the tone in Houston.
Yeah, I agree.
Like they did against OKC last year.
I agree. Another good matchup is going to be Russell Westbrook and Damian Lillard and Paul George, and think they'll put him on C.J. McCollum, or who do you think Paul George is going to end up guarding?
Well, Paul George, he's a really great defender. In a lot of ways, actually, he's my defensive player of the year. But I believe if they can put him on C.J., and I don't think he'll be able to stop C.J., because C.J., he's a great player.
Yeah.
But if you can get him to slow down one of those two, whether it be Damian Lillard or C.J. McCollum, I think that gives the Thunder a really good chance. And it's too bad Yusuf Nurkic got hurt the way he did.
I was just going to say, I think Steven Adams can have a great series with that horrible injury
Yusuf
Nurkic had. That was nasty.
But it could, and that's, like I said, that's too bad because that could have been another great matchup in
That could, because he was playing great basketball before. And I think that night he even had 32 or something like that in that overtime win. He was playing great. Just sad to see him go down.
Yeah, well, while the Trailblazers are a great team, the Thunder have Russell Westbrook and Paul George, who are two very obviously playoff caliber players. And I think they're really going to take the floor, and the Trailblazers aren't going to handle them. Damian Lillard is a great, great point guard, but between Paul George and Westbrook, I don't think the Trailblazers will be able to handle them.
Yeah. So, the Raptors and Magic. I don't see that one being close. I have the Raptors sweeping the Magic. I mean, Magic are just too young. They don't have experience.
No.
They're going up against Kawhi Leonard, arguably one of the best two-way players in the league. And then Marc Gasol, Pascal Siakam, who's one of the front runners for most improved player of the year, as well as Kyle Lowry, who's been there, and he's just a great playoff player. I feel like he always comes up in the playoffs and plays great.
Yeah, I believe the Raptors, like you said, it could either be a sweep or go 5 games. Because it's a matchup nightmare. Who are you going to guard Kawhi Leonard with? Who are you going to put up against Kyle Lowry? I mean, the one mismatch you could argue is Vucevic against Marc Gasol.
But I don't even know about that, though, because Gasol's he's an old dog, so he knows he's got some tricks in his sleeve. I think he's gonna be just fine. I think the Raptors should go quite a ways.
And I got a question for both of you. It's kind of going off topic, but do you think anyone realistically, East or West, stands a chance against Golden State?
I would say no. With Golden State having Curry, Durant, and Klay Thompson and Cousins, that's a super stacked team. And while there are other great teams, no one is able to have that many stars on their roster. So, and pay for it. So, I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop them at all.
I think in my Eastern Conference Finals, I'll have the Celtics up against the Raptors, and I think if the Celtics get hot and they play to their potential, then they can beat the Warriors in 6. Because I think the Warriors I think they're just coasting right now, and I think that's going to come back and bite them. Or even the Raptors, because he's had a great season. He really has. And I think if either of those two teams get hot at the right time, they could end up beating the Warriors.
Here's a question, though. What do you think about the 76ers? Feel like they are a team that could actually do really well.
You know,
I feel like if they match up, if say they get by Toronto in the next round, I don't see them beating the Bucks or the Celtics, because Ben Simmons, although he's a great player, he still has holes in his game.
Yeah, he can't shoot at all.
And like Embiid,
and Giannis is a better Ben Simmons, basically. He is a lot better, I think. I think Ben Simmons is a lot like Giannis, but Giannis is Giannis. There's no one like him.
No.
But how about the Nets? I think D'Angelo Russell, I think he could go off a little bit. And Jared Allen, he could be a good
rim protector.
He's going to play good defense on Joel Embiid, and I think it could give him fits a little bit, because if they don't get Joel Embiid going, is he even going to play?
Well, yeah, that's a big question I've been hearing about. Embiid, throughout his whole career, what I've noticed, he's had problems staying healthy. As great as he is, he's had a lot of trouble staying healthy.
Another thing I feel like, though, is if the 76ers drop a game, they're going to start, because they've been getting mad at each other. Jimmy Butler, obviously we know what he did with the Timberwolves and the Bulls. Teammates don't really like him that much. So I'm thinking if they drop a game or two, they could start getting into their own heads and bickering at each other, and that'd just be bad.
For sure.
So now do you want to talk about the season awards, or do you want to talk about any other matchups that we have, like Celtics and the Bucks?
Well, I think we pretty much covered it, and I think we could probably go to break now, if that's good.
All right, let's take a little quick break, and we'll come back in 30 seconds. All right, we're back now, so we're going to talk about the awards. So who's your coach of the year?
My coach of the year, I believe, is Mike Budenholzer, because he coached a team who was the 8th seed in the East, and a lot of people talk about how bad the East was, at least last year. And I believe the change of coaches to Mike Budenholzer, I mean, of course, there's Giannis, but I think he affected the Bucks in a positive light.
You know, I think the coach of the year is going to go to a Mike. I just don't know if it's going to be Mike Budenholzer or Mike Malone, because Mike Malone took a 46-36 team and missing the playoffs last year to 54-28, and they're now a 2 seed. And if you look at that team, I feel like there's 3 other teams in the Western Conference that have a better roster that didn't play as well as they did. I think what he did with the Nuggets this year is pretty great, and I think it's going to be hard to.
Well, yeah, the Nuggets have really come on this year, and a lot of it is due to Coach Malone. He's done a great job putting this team together. They function as a team really, really well. One of the best teams in the league as far as function. They don't necessarily have the stars of the Warriors, but it can be arguable that they are one of the best teams.
Yeah. So I think it's going to go to Mike, I think, but I just don't know which one.
And to what you and Dawson said, yeah, the Nuggets have kind of come on this season, but you'll learn throughout these podcasts that I'm not a big believer in the Denver Nuggets. I just believe a lot of it is due to their home record. If you look at their away record, they're almost a sub 500 team. They're 20-18 on the road. They're not a great road team, and as you saw kind of too, Jokic's temper, it could cost him.
Yeah.
Because the man, he has a temper.
Yeah, he does. So who's your MVP?
Oh, I think it's not even close. I think it's James Harden all the way. The man, single-handedly, I believe, when the Rockets were a sub-500 team, he decided to just turn it on with that great 30-point game streak and just destroyed opponents.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people have Giannis, but when was the last time we saw someone score 8 more points than the next closest person over the season? He averaged 36. The next closest person averaged 28, right?
I think it was 28.
When was the last time we saw something like that?
I think it was Michael Jordan back in 1987 or 88.
And another thing, he did carry the Rockets when they weren't doing too great. He just carried them, put them on his back, and brought them back out. If you look at the stats here, he averaged 36.1 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and he was second in the league in player efficiency rating with a player efficiency of 30.62. That's pretty great, I think.
That is pretty great. To have that many points and stuff, you have to take a lot of shots. And taking that many shots means your team isn't going to function as well. So, in some ways, while he is a great player and he might deserve the MVP,
But look at the player efficiency right there.
he can also be considered a ball hog of the team.
Yeah,
So,
but when you go and
out 7 assists.
how good is he at defense?
he's second in the league in steals, I think. He's averaging 2.1 steals per game.
Okay, but as a player, does he make a profound impact on the defensive status of that team?
No, I think his defense is underrated now. I think he's stepped it up, heard all the fans in the league bickering at how he doesn't play any defense, and I think he's actually not terrible.
I think in the process of 4 seasons, Harden's went from arguably the worst great player defender to one of the top at least 3. I think he's made leaps and bounds in his defense.
So
the effort, it can be questioned. I see what you're saying there. But at times...
It's not as bad as the other buddy, James.
No.
LeBron, oh man.
LeBron's
wasn't
defense, it's slowly deteriorating.
Yeah. So
poor
who's
guy.
your MVP then, Dawson?
Giannis. He is in question for the defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
He obviously is a unstoppable player offense. But he's a completely unstoppable player offensively. It has been shown, and with his nickname, the Greek Freak, that he is a totally dominant player on the floor. People fear him when they guard him. So I think that makes him the MVP.
There's no one scarier to guard than the Beard. He has so many tricks, and he can finish, and he's athletic. He can shoot, dribble, facilitate. He does it all.
Yes, but at the same time, he does not have the defensive capability of Giannis.
At the same time, though, Giannis can't shoot that great.
Yes.
So you can play off him, and maybe you can contain him a little bit, but how are you going to contain James Harden? You literally can't stop him on offense. He has all the moves.
Well, Paul George stopped him one time by holding him to 2 points in the fourth quarter for a Thunder win. So I think he can be stopped. It just will require great defense, and really, really hard pressure on him.
Yeah. How about Rookie of the Year?
Rookie of the Year, I believe it comes down to two people. I believe it's either Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks or Trae Young. Now, you can argue both, but me personally, I like Luka because he has been shown throughout the whole season. And Trae Young, for instance, he's just came on since the All-Star break. And now, granted, he's come on, and he's come on strong, too. But I think Luka has proven throughout a whole season he can do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that Luka Doncic is the Rookie of the Year. I don't think it's even that close, honestly, because Luka has done this all season, and his team also has the better record. But another thing is Luka leads stats for his team in points, steals, assists, and I think rebounds, but he just doesn't lead the team in blocks. Trae Young, however, only leads his team in points and assists, and if you look at the Atlanta Hawks, they aren't that great of a team, so.
No, and I think you're right. What do you think, Dawson?
I would agree. I think Luka deserves it, and I think if Trae had come on at the beginning of the season, I think that maybe this would be different.
Yeah, if Trae was playing like he is over the last 20 games where he's averaged 24 points and 9 assists, easy answer. He's Rookie of the Year, but he hasn't. Over the season, he's averaged 19.1 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 8 assists.
And Luka's been consistent.
He
So
has.
I think he deserves the Rookie of the Year there.
And my last thought on that is, Luka, they say he's a rookie, but the man's been playing against grown men. Now, granted, they aren't as good, you can argue, as the NBA players. But he's been playing against pro-level guys for a while. And I think that really helped him as far as winning this and, acclimating to the league like he did.
Yeah, I agree. I agree Luka's Rookie of the Year. I don't think it should be even close.
Who do you guys have for your sixth man of the year?
For my sixth man of the year, I have Lou Williams. For me, I see a sixth man as a person you want to go out there and get a bucket. And that's what Lou Williams is. He's a walking bucket, averaging 20 points per game. And he also distributed a little bit with 5.4 assists, which isn't bad for a sixth man coming off the bench. But I feel like he scored and facilitated that offense well. He deserves to be sixth man again.
Well, I would say while Lou Williams definitely is a great sixth man, I'd say Derrick Rose has also kind of earned that. He's had a great season. He's come back some and helped the Timberwolves out a lot this season. So I think both of those players are really good. And those are the top two, I would say.
I think Derrick Rose will get the award, and he well deserves it. But I think a guy who could use some consideration is Dwayne Wade.
Oh, here comes the Heat fan. Here it comes.
Well, no, I'm just saying. Now, granted, they didn't make the playoffs, and that's what it is. What it is. But I think without Dwayne Wade on that team, I believe the Heat would be in the lottery. Well, they are in the lottery, but have a top 5 pick.
You know, that's something I think, though. I look at all of us. There's only one team with a person who has sorry, let me reword that. There's only one team in the playoffs that I think the sixth man could be on. Do you think that really matters? Because I think if you're on a worse team and you're the sixth man, you can play better, inflate your stats a little bit, kind of like what Devin Booker does. I don't think he's that great. I mean, he's a good player, but I don't think he's that great. But because he's on such a bad team, his stats are a lot better. But I think something like that for the sixth man has to be there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying Dwayne, I think he deserves consideration. I think he shouldn't win it, but he should at least be in consideration because what he did for that Miami team in his last season was kind of spectacular.
So who do you have? Do you have Dwayne Wade winning it then? Or?
No, I believe Derrick Rose should win it. Derrick Rose or, just Derrick Rose, I think.
Yeah, he would deserve it as well. So, Defensive Player of the Year. I'm a Jazz fan, and I think Rudy could win it again because he played great. He played really great and spectacular. But I think so. My heart wants to say Rudy Gobert is going to win it, but I honestly think Giannis is going to win it because he does it all defensively. He gets blocks, steals, rebounds. But according to Second Spectrum tracking, opponents have just shot 40.6% when Giannis is the closest defender, 6.2 percentage points lower than the average on those shots. So that's really good. And teams also are scoring 2 points less per game when Giannis is, or 2 points less when Giannis is on the floor versus when he's not. I don't know who else can get it besides Rudy.
No, I believe there is good in what you're saying. Like, I believe Rudy Gobert could win it again, and Giannis is in good consideration. But mine would have to be Paul George. And I don't have any stats per se.
I know he is leading the league in steals.
I know steals. And I've seen many Thunder games. And I just believe the way he plays defense, I think he can lock up a small forward, a shooting guard, a smaller power forward, and a point guard. And I believe, based on what I've seen when he's gone up against arguably the MVP in James Harden, he stopped James Harden the other night, like Dawson said.
Yeah.
He held him to 2 points in the fourth quarter and ended up hitting the clutch shot to win the game 111-110.
Who's your Defensive Player of the Year, Dawson?
Well, I would say Rudy Gobert easily deserves it. He really has made an impact within the last games, blocking a ton of shots. And he's a beast in the post. He keeps a lot of layups from being easy makes. So while Giannis and Paul George are also great, I think Rudy Gobert has the biggest impact.
You know, another thing about Rudy is he doesn't just block the shots. He alters a lot.
Yeah.
Just
Passes.
the Stifle Tower, man. It's hard to shoot over him, but it's just hard playing a guy like that defensively, and I think that's going to be a good matchup for him in the playoffs, and him and James Harden when James Harden's trying to get into the lane. What about most improved player?
I believe also I believe Derrick Rose could also win that award.
Think he's going to go home with 2 awards?
I think he possibly could. Because Derrick Rose, you know what happened to him. He had that awful injury.
And then another.
And then another. And then I think another. And I think a lot of people thought he was washed up. But I think, honestly, he could be back. Not to the full MVP level he was. But I think he's come back around. Because he was averaging last year 8.4 points per game. And he also they were career lows. And now this year, his minutes have gone up 11, and he's gone up 10 points, averaging 18 points per game. His 3 points gotten better, and his player efficiency rating has gotten better as well.
Yeah. My most improved player is Pascal Siakam for the Toronto Raptors. Looking at his 2017 to 18 stats, he had a decent year. He averaged 7.3 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal and half a block while shooting 51% from the field goal and 22% from 3 and 62% from the free throw line, to this year where he averaged 16.1 points per game. So that's about almost a 10-point increase. And then he also averaged almost 3 rebounds more, another assist, 1 steal. He averaged .7 blocks, went up in field goal percentage by 4. Also shot the 3 ball 13% better, and his free throw percentage went up 17%. So,
While that's very impressive, I think he really would deserve the most improved player if he got it. I think D'Angelo Russell has also made a massive change from last year. Last year, from what I know at least, pretty much no one knew him. He was just another little player that was just kind of a side guy.
he was on the Nets, so
And
hard to know him.
and no one ever paid any attention to him. But this year he's exploded and really come out, and more people know him and pay attention to him, and he's actually something that matters in some ways now.
He was an all-star this year.
He
Yeah.
was. Yeah, definitely.
You know, another person I think who could actually be a contender? Paul George.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
definitely.
he's improved quite a bit, I feel like. He's the leading scorer for the Thunder, I think, isn't he?
He is. He's upped his points per game by 6 points per game.
And he's upped his rebounds per game from 5.7 to 8.1, and another assist every game. So
And he's one of the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year as well.
yeah,
Well, I think that's all the time we have for this topic. We'll catch you back in 30 seconds.
So that's all the time Dawson has with us, and we'd like to thank you, and, well, we'll see you on the show again.
yeah. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. So, Shane, now let's start talking about Magic Johnson stepping down.
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy thing. I think no one expected. And like he said, he didn't even tell Jeannie Buss that he was stepping down. So I think, honestly, it kind of could show one or two things. I think Magic could have lost the power struggle, if there even was one, with Rob Pelinka, the GM. Or he could have just realized he's not going to deliver a max free agent to LA and just
And he
decided.
doesn't want to disappoint.
Yeah, he doesn't want to disappoint because he's Magic.
You know, do you think LeBron had anything to do with it? I mean, I know fans are going to say, oh, LeBron got Magic fired too, but
Oh, I don't. I think in a lot of ways, well, especially in LA, Magic's way bigger than LeBron could ever hope to be. Magic delivered 5 titles and however many MVPs. So I think as far as cachet, Magic holds way more than LeBron because this is LeBron's first year.
yeah.
LeBron can get coaches fired easily, I think. But when it comes to another great player like Magic Johnson, I just don't believe that.
Yeah. I think there's something fishy going on in LA right now, and I hope we all find out soon what it is, but I don't know for sure.
I don't think we'll ever find out the full truth unless one of us were to go to talk to Magic and he'd convulge,
Yeah.
you know, but
I don't think he would, though.
I don't think he would.
I think LA means too much to him,
It
and I
would.
think he doesn't want to throw him under the bus or anything if something fishy is going on.
But in my opinion, I think one of my points, and I think the most likely, was that he lost a power struggle to Rob Pelinka. And the reason I believe this was in Magic's press conference, he didn't outright say it, but he said he didn't like the backstabbing going on.
Yeah.
And you don't know who that is, but he says he loves Jeannie, so you don't believe it's Jeannie. And I just believe it could be Rob Pelinka. And like the reporter Adrian Wojnarowski was saying, that Pelinka was going around asking where Magic is when he knew Magic wasn't in the facility, kind of just backstabbing in a way, trying to get him fired.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but do you think Magic stepped down, or do you think he was forced?
I believe of his own free will he was forced. Yeah, I truly believe Magic kind of, not so much he was forced, just kind of forcefully willed himself to step down. Now, whether it was he didn't want to disappoint, like Jaden had mentioned before, or it was he lost the power struggle, if there even was one in the first place, with Rob Pelinka. And I believe Magic wanted to fire Rob, and Genie wouldn't let that happen, so...
Yeah. Do you think any of this had to deal with how they couldn't trade for Anthony Davis earlier in the year as well, or?
I don't believe that it was that they didn't execute the trade. I believe the way it was handled. I believe all the pushing out of the rumors and stuff. Now, whether it came from Magic or Pelinka, we will probably never know.
Yeah, and I feel like with all those rumors and stuff saying Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Kuzma, all those guys being a piece to that Anthony Davis trade, I feel like that hurt the team chemistry a little bit because they thought it was LeBron trying to trade all them for Anthony Davis, but it could have been Magic. We don't know, but I feel like that's part of the reason the Lakers are sitting at home now.
I think you hit the nail right on the head as well, too, because, like you said, that could have just devastated. And now we knew LeBron was injured, but I think personally, if that were me, if I were Kuzma or any of the other guys, I would feel personally betrayed by LeBron.
Yeah, I agree.
If it was indeed him, or at least Magic in the organization.
Yep. So, how about the extraordinary careers for Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki? First things first, Dirk's the best foreign player to ever play.
Yeah, no question.
I don't even know who else could be.
Well, some would argue, dumb Skip Bayless would argue, Manu Ginobili.
But
he
had a good career, but Dirk was the man.
Yeah, Manu had
Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, all those guys.
And
Kawhi for a year.
Kawhi for a few years, and you could argue that Dirk never had a Hall of Fame head coach. Like Manu had Greg Popovich for his entire career.
And he's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. Dirk's going to be. Both of Dirk and Dwayne Wade are going to be Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
I don't know if Manu's going to be a Hall of Famer.
I think Manu will be.
I think he deserves it, but
well,
I don't know.
As you've seen, they let Vlade Divac into the Hall of Fame. They're going to let Manu in.
You know, I play a lot of 2K, so every time Manu retires, he never gets inducted.
Yeah.
But that's 2K, so.
Yeah.
But let's go over the stats real quick. Dwayne Wade averaged 22 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, and 5.4 assists over his whole career. Dirk averaged 20.7 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 2.4 assists in his whole career. And how about the loyalty of these two?
I think the loyalty is probably as good as anybody else, you know, because Dirk especially more than Wade, I think, because Dallas, let's face it, Dallas has been kind of bad
since their title.
2012 they were decent, but yeah, since the title they've kind of just fell off.
Yep.
And Dirk, he was aging then, but I think he had an opportunity to go somewhere.
And I think he could have went somewhere good and still been one of the men of the team.
If you really look at it, now I don't have the exact numbers, but if Dirk would only played 17 years, his career numbers would be exponentially better than what they are. Because these last 4 seasons, he never really played, and he's coming out averaging 4 points a game, 2 assists, and 5 rebounds.
Yep. He played 21 years. And he won 1 championship. He's top 5 power forward all time.
You could argue, yeah.
And then top 30 player of all time, do you think?
Top 25, yeah, I think.
Yeah. And then he was on 12 All-NBA teams, and he was a 14-time All-Star. What a exceptional career for.
Yeah, one of the greats of all time, definitely.
Yep. Now, how about Dwayne Wade?
Now, Dwayne,
He's got a special place in your heart, we
the
know.
man does.
You're a Heat fan,
And
so.
I think Dwayne had a great career. I believe he was a better passer than most people gave him credit for. And I think the years with LeBron it helped, and I'll try to explain this. It helped, and yet it hindered his career.
It helped because he won the championships,
Championships.
but it hindered because they're saying LeBron's the reason, you think?
Yeah, I
Or-
think.
But, I think Dwayne Wade had just an important impact as LeBron did because
Oh, I believe that too.
he was
but
still playing great basketball. He was. I mean, LeBron was the best player on the team, I think, but Dwayne Wade was still. Without him, I don't think they would have won.
I don't think so either. I think Dwayne's impact is underrated a lot of times. Like, even this year, his career numbers, yeah, they were down. But if you had a game where you absolutely had to win it, more times than not, even this version of Dwayne Wade will come through for you.
Yeah, I agree. So, he won one scoring title, made 8 All-NBA teams, made 3 NBA defensive teams, 13 All-Star teams. He was a 3-time champ, 1 Finals MVP. And you can probably argue, not just based on stats, but team record and everything as well, that he's probably, you can argue he's a top 3 shooting guard of all time,
Yeah.
maybe behind Kobe and
Kobe
Michael
and
Jordan.
MJ.
And then you can probably argue him, Allen Iverson.
Harden, I think, is creeping up in the discussion.
I think he could become one of the better ones to ever play the game.
I think if Harden gets a couple of titles.
Yep.
But I think for me, I'd love to say Dwayne was the best shooting guard of all time. And I think if he wouldn't, it's kind of like the Tracy McGrady thing. If he wouldn't have had those injuries, now granted Dwayne Wade kept playing, but if he wouldn't have had those injuries, I believe, could he have been better than Michael? That's a stretch, maybe. But I think he could have passed Kobe, maybe not in titles, but in everything else, I think.
Yeah. But look at the impact they have on the game, too. I don't think it's just how they're great players, but
No.
I
think,
feel like the league has came a long way, and I feel like those two have helped. All the younger people as well. Like, they're great mentors.
they are. Like, you've seen this year, Luka Doncic has burst onto the scene, and you've seen Dirk kind of mentor him being a foreign player, and that's another guy who could one day pass Dirk for the best foreign player of
Or
all time.
Kristaps, even.
Or Kristaps even, too, you know.
They could be a scary team coming up, but
They could be. And I think, like, what would be really good and what is really good is how Dirk, like, revolutionized his position. Because, like, before, if you're 7 feet tall,
you're in the block.
you're in the block. You're
big.
posting
You're a
up
big
and
guy.
Yeah.
But he can shoot.
And it's kind of like Kevin Durant said the other day. When he was growing up, there was, if you were, like Jaden said, you were on the block. But Durant seeing Dirk Nowitzki, and I think he's became a revolutionary player as far as the fadeaway he's got. I see a lot of players mimicking that, like LeBron, Durant can do that. And
For a 7-footer, though, like we were saying, he shot 38% from 3 over his career. That's
really good.
especially coming from a time, well, he's played in both eras where the best 3-point shooters in the league shot 2 or 3 shots, 2 or 3 threes a game, to now you got Steph throwing up 12. But the way he's grown from when he was a rookie until now is just, it's crazy in what he's done.
I think, yeah. As far as impact, I think Dirk had the bigger impact, possibly, as far as, like, on the game. But, like, Dwayne doing stuff with his charities, and, like, recently he's reached out to him and his family have reached out to the LGBT community.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of great stuff.
It is some great stuff. Well, I think that's all the time we have. And we'd like to thank all the viewers, and hopefully you keep listening, and the podcast will get better. But this is Jaden and Shane. Thank you.
Thank you.